get started, convene the meeting of the July 20th, 2017 Little Rock Planning Commission. We'll take roll call, please.
Chairman Barry.
Here.
Vice Chair Bubbas.
Here.
Commissioner Bynum.
Here.
Commissioner Cox.
Here.
Commissioner Dillon. Here. Commissioner Finney. Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Leahy. Here. Commissioner Latour. Commissioner Stebbins. Here. Commissioner May. You have 9 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for the approval of the minutes?
I'd like to move for the approval of the minutes from, let's see, what's the date on that? June 8th, 2017.
I'll second.
We've heard a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th and seconded. Those approved signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? And it's approved. Okay. We have more cards coming in. Thank you. Staff, would you begin the presentation of the consent agenda, please?
Little Rock Planning Commission Subdivision Consent Agenda, July 20th, 2017. Items for consent deferral. Item D, file number Z-9219, Mickles Short Form PDC, located at 2904 South Arch Street. There's been no change in the application, and the applicant has not provided staff with an updated site plan to address staff's concerns related to the parking lot layout. Staff recommends deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2017 public hearing. Item number 1, file number S-867-J, 8 times. Chenal Valley Phases 30 and 31 preliminary plat, located on the east side of Lamarche Drive between Lamarche Drive and Rawling Road. Staff recommends deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2014 public hearing. Item number 3, file number S-293-A, Waterford Apartments revised subdivision site plan review, located at 701 Green Mountain Drive. The applicant failed to provide proper notice and did not provide the notice in a timely manner. The notice form provided to the property owners within 200 feet of the site was not the correct notice form related to the request. Staff recommends deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2017 public hearing to allow proper notice to be provided. Item number 6, file number Z-5817-I, 15,000 Cantrell Road, short form PDC, located at 15,000 Cantrell Road. The applicant submitted a request dated July 5th, 2017, requesting deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2017 public hearing. Item number 8, file number Z-6323-X, The Village at Rawling Road, revised long form PCD, located on the southwest corner of Rawling Road and Rawling Circle. The applicant submitted a request dated July the 6th, 2017, requesting deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2017 public hearing. Item number 11, file number Z-8643-A, M&K Incorporated, short form PCD, located at 7020 Colonel Glenn Road. The applicant submitted a request dated July 5th, 2017, requesting deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2017 public hearing. Item number 15, file number Z-9228, Combs short form PDC, located at 9010 Hilero Springs Road. The applicant failed to notify property owners as required by the Commission's bylaws. Staff recommends deferral of this item to the August 31st, 2017 public hearing. We have cards on A and C. Item 1 was deferred. Item number 2, items for consent approval. Did I say that? I'm sorry. Items for consent approval. Item number 2, file number S-1073-K, Arkansas Systems, lots 4A through 4D, preliminary plat, located on the southwest corner of Arkansas Systems Drive and Chenal Parkway. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the following variance request. A variance from the city's land alteration ordinance to allow grading of the entire site with the construction of the proposed box culvert and creek relocation upon approval from FEMA of a required 404 permit, a variance from Section 30-43 and 31-210 to allow the drive on Arkansas Systems Drive nearer the property line than typically allowed per ordinance. Item number 4, file number Z-4411-0, Lot 3A, Pleasant Ridge Town Center, revised PCD, located at 11525 Cantrell Road. Staff recommends approval of the request to allow the placement of an additional wall sign on the existing Chick-fil-A building. Item number 5, file number Z-5099-8, Northwest Territory, short form PDC, located on the northeast corner of Cantrell Road and the Divide Parkway. Staff recommends approval of the request to allow the rezoning of the site from R2 Single Family to PDC, Planned Development Commercial, to allow the placement of a subdivision identification sign to serve the Northwest Territory subdivision. Item number 7, file number Z-6120-Q, Landmark Apartments, revised long form PDR, located at 16,000 Rushmore Avenue. Staff recommends approval of the request as proposed to allow the placement of the wall sign on the retaining wall at the intersection of Rushmore Avenue and Capitol Hills Boulevard, and the variance request from the land alteration ordinance to allow the plantings on the upper bench as proposed. Item number 9, file number Z-7218-A, Bull Building, short form PCD, located at 500 South Main Street. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. A franchise agreement will be required for any projections into or use of the public right-of-way. Item number 10, file number Z-7895-E, J&R Properties, revised short form PCD, located at 714 Appian Way. The applicant has removed from the request the allowance of movable carport structure and the request for the placement of a 10-foot fence along the western perimeter of the site. Based on the removal of the carport structure and the elimination of the 10-foot fence, staff is now supportive of the applicant's request. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 13, file number Z-9226, Welborn, short form PDR, located at 3901 North Lookout. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 14, file number Z-9227, Gully, short form PDC, located at 23721 Highway 10. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 16, file number Z-9229, Boggs, long form PDR, located at 11108 Garrison Road. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends the applicant remove the manufactured home within a 5-year time frame or seek a revision to the PDR to allow the home to remain for some additional time. Item number 17, file number Z-9230, 3201 Kavanaugh Boulevard, short form PDR, located at 3201 Kavanaugh Boulevard. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 18, file number Z-9231, 3205 Kavanaugh Boulevard, short form PDR, located at 3205 Kavanaugh Boulevard. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 19, file number Z-9232, Reich, short form PDR, located at 2810 through 2812 North University Avenue. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item number 20, file number LA-0076, The Ranch, Lot 3, Tract D, advanced grading variance. Staff recommends approval of the advanced grading variance request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraph D of the agenda staff report. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, Commissioners, we've heard the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yes, but before that, out of abundance of caution, I'd like to recuse myself on item number 2, just being safe there. So I move for approval of the consent agenda with all staff recommendations and comments.
Your second? We have a motion that's been seconded for approval of consent agenda. Those approved signify by raising their right hand. And those opposed, by like sign. Okay, so for those in the audience, the consent agenda has been read. For those who submitted cards on item number 1, that's been deferred. I don't know if you caught that or not. So that will not be heard tonight. Yes, ma'am.
So maybe we read this wrong, that when items are deferred, when they come back, instead of 20 minutes, we only get 10 minutes? Is that true?
If there was a public hearing held on an item, that is true, but since there is no discussion of the item today, it will be the full 20 minutes.
That's correct. Yep, okay. Anything else, want to let them know those who wanted to speak on item 1 that it actually has been deferred. Having said that, we will move on to the first item on the regular agenda. Let's hear a rendering of the list of what is on the regular agenda, please. And
Okay.
while others are excusing themselves.
Item A, Markham Center subdivision site plan review. Item C, which is the, item B, the Hamilton Apartments. Item C, which
is Islamic Center.
Islamic Center. Item E, Springtree subdivision. Item 12, the East Village, and item 21, the Rowan Village revocation.
You are correct. Okay. Let's get started on item number A, please.
Item A, file number S-1312-A, Markham Center. Excuse me. Thank you. Markham Center Square subdivision site plan review located at 9101 West Markham Street. The applicant is requesting site plan review approval per section 3113 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances. The subdivision ordinance states subdivision site plan review is a development review process that provides for case-by-case consideration of a project. The applicant is proposing the construction of a 2,300 square foot restaurant with a drive-through service. The plan indicates the placement of restaurant along the western portion of the existing shopping center. The applicant is proposing to restripe portions of the parking lot within the area proposed for development. The current parking and drive lanes located on the office zone portion of the site will remain. The building will be constructed within the C3 General Commercial District Zone portion of the site. The request includes the placement of signage on all 4 sides of the building. Signage is typically allowed on sides with street frontage only. Staff is not supportive of the placement of signage without public street frontage and recommends the signage be limited to the eastern and northern facades of the building. The order menu board is proposed along the western side of the building. The applicant has not requested a waiver of the required screening of the order board. Staff feels that the order board should be screened and constructed of masonry or wood textured finish to diminish sound deflection to the adjacent homes to the west. The request includes a waiver of the right-of-way dedication for West Markham Street. Along this portion of West Markham Street, there's a high-voltage electrical transmission line, which is unlikely to be relocated. Any street widening on West Markham Street will likely take place to the north of the existing roadway. Staff is supportive of the waiver request. Ordinance number 2893, adopted by the board on February 11, 2014, modified the code, which requires that all development must be completed within 3 years of the approval. If not completed, the applicant will be required to seek a revision to the approved site plan. Staff is supportive of the applicant's request. The applicant is seeking approval to allow the development of the site with a restaurant. The plan is indicated with setbacks and building heights which comply with the underlying zoning district. The exception is the proposed building signage plan, which staff does not support. Otherwise, to staff knowledge, there are no outstanding issues. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends wall signage be limited to the facades with street frontage, the eastern and northern facades. Staff recommends the order board be screened, and staff recommends approval of the waiver request of right-of-way dedication on West Markham Street.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant here for that? Yes. We only have one card that submitted in opposition. You're welcome to wait to hear what this person wants to say.
Okay.
And then respond to that if you'd like.
Okay,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you. Eleanor Jones?
Yes, I live at 123 Pryor, and my backyard will be adjacent to this fast food restaurant. And that's just too much noise. We've already got a big shopping center there, and I don't think we need anything else in that area.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name, please.
Troy Rich.
Okay.
Yes, sir. In order to address that concern, the only thing I could suggest is to possibly provide some form of retainer wall to act as a sound barrier to kind of minimize the amount of noise and so forth, to avoid that for that particular area that she's referencing.
We'll talk about that. Were you aware of the staff's conditions regarding signage?
Yes, sir.
And you agreed to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you actually suggesting to incorporate a retainer or buffer?
If
in this
required,
app?
yes.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
Do you have anything proposed there right now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, between, I don't know that it's required, but it makes a good neighbor.
Right, right.
So you might want to think about that.
Okay.
Other commissioners?
I don't know where I'm working or not.
Yeah, that's,
I don't, well, what are your hours of operation, sir?
10 to 10.
That's all the question I have.
okay. Any other questions? All right. Do we hear a motion regarding this application?
I just want to be clear, is he amending the application or is he leaving it as is?
That is up to him. It's not being required by staff. It's up to you if you'd
Okay.
like to include that. Are you
Would-
saying you?
Well, I'll confirm with the owner, and I can address it at that moment and notify Donna, who I've been corresponding with back and forth.
Yeah.
Let's don't leave it hanging. Let's say he is going to or he is not going to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you could defer.
So no, sir.
Okay, so he's not going to do it. Okay. I move for approval of item A with all staff recommendations and comments.
I'll second.
Okay, we hear a motion to approve this item. It's been seconded. Those approved signify. Yes, sir.
I'm a little slow. Explain to me, he is or he isn't?
He is not being required to. He's not amending his application.
So he's not putting in the retaining wall?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the motion's been made to approve the application with staff recommendations, and it's been seconded. Those approved signify by raising your right hand. Those who do not? Okay. Passes 7-2. The application.
Okay.
All right. All right. Item B. And before she gets started, I will remind those in here opposition to item B that there is a 20-minute time limit. I do have some cards for, and I don't think that's going to be an issue, but those in opposition will need to keep your time limit in mind. Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Chris Stewart. I'm an attorney here in Little Rock, and I represent Reese Commercial. Really hate to do this afternoon because there's been a lot of time and effort that has been put into this petition. However, given the fact that to the two members that aren't here, we strongly believe were yes votes for my client, and given the fact that this will be going to the Board of Directors, that number matters to us in a major way. As members of the committee, you're very well aware that your judgment and your response to any petition is viewed in reasonableness factor, and that you're not arbitrary nor capricious to any petitioner coming before this. And so based on that fact and the holdings in the Supreme Court by McKean by City versus Little Rock, or McKean versus the City of Little Rock, we believe that this time we have no choice but to ask for a deferment to the next meeting until all members are present.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions? We have a request by the applicant to defer this application to what time? August 31st. Okay. Commissioner Latour.
I won't be here, but good luck.
Thank you, sir.
You may end up in the same situation and make everyone mad.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm used to talking to judges, Mr. Chairman, but it is important to us because of the nature of this request that we want the majority of the members present. There's been quite a bit of work done on this, and this vote matters to us going to the board. Okay, and based on case law precedent and the standard that this committee's held to, we believe that it's in our best interest to defer at this time.
Okay. Your motion.
Yes, I move for the deferral of item B to August 31st.
Okay. There a second? Thank you. A motion to defer has been seconded. Those approved signify by raising their right hand. And those who do not? Well, I will, yes. I agree, and I appreciate y'all's efforts. We keep these cards for you to be notified if you had your address and things here, that there will be a notice sent out to those who attended, and for those both for and against. So with that being said, this item's been deferred to August 31st.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, thank you for your time.
Hey, staff, how many times can he defer?
Twice. And then the bylaws say that they can't ask for a third deferral. Well, they say that you can't do a third deferral, but it does say that you can waive your bylaws to allow for a third deferral. But then after that, that's it.
Okay, we got a little more oxygen in the room now. We can move on to item C.
Item C, file number Z-7812-B, the Islamic Center of Little Rock West, short form PDR, located at 14900 Canis Road. The request is a rezoning of the site from PDR expired to PDR to allow the development of the site with a school and ancillary activities and to obtain approval of the overall master plan for the proposed future development of the site. Phase 1 is proposed in 2017 to 2018. Is proposed clearing and rough grading of the entire site, excluding the buffer areas around the property, and construction of a 4,000 square foot assembly building sports fields, South Drive entrance, parking lot with 26 parking spaces, and 275 linear feet of Canis Road improvements and a detention pond. The Phase 2 improvements are proposed 2018 to 2020. Ooh, that sounds away. Is proposed with construction of a school building and 500 linear feet of Canis Road improvements, which is the remaining improvements required for Canis Road. The school plans to first construct a building to move the elementary school, 110 students currently located at Anna, and expand to a middle school. The building will have the option of expanding to accommodate high school classes in the unforeseeable future. This phase will also build the second driveway and 44 additional parking spaces. Phase 3 is proposed 2020 to 2025. The remaining facilities are indicated on the master plan will be developed, which include a mosque, gymnasium, banquet area, indoor swimming pool, administrative offices, and 92 parking spaces. With the Phase 1 and 2 development, the applicant is proposing to construct 70 parking spaces, which is adequate to serve the proposed school. The applicant submitted a traffic study and traffic control plan to staff for review and approval. Staff does recommend approval of the study and the control plan, subject to compliance with the vehicular traffic drop-off and pickup of students and/or guest traffic. They shall not stop, wait, or delay traffic on Canis Road. They are responsible for monitoring and making sure that all the traffic queues on site. If it's found that the eastbound traffic on Canis Road desiring to enter the Islamic Center site and waiting for the left turn lane on Canis Road routinely exceeds the turn bay and blocks eastbound traffic, then they will have to modify their plan and eliminate eastbound traffic entering the site. Should problems occur that affect traffic on Canis Road, the Islamic Center agrees to hire, at no cost to the City of Little Rock, off-duty police officers. They also agree to have their traffic engineer present at the opening day of school and subsequent days as necessary to monitor school traffic. And prior to modifying the traffic control plan, increasing the student enrollment beyond 200 students, they will work with the city and traffic engineering to ensure that there are no problems with the stacking and backing on Canis Road. Staff recommends approval of the request, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions as outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance request from the city's land alteration ordinance to allow grading of future phases with the development of the first phase.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant here, please? We just have one card here that wants to speak to this in opposition. So if you want to yield the time now to hear that and then address their concerns, that'd be just fine.
Yes.
Okay. Gary Walchman?
Hello, thanks for your time. My address is, my name is Gary Walchman. My address is number 4 Summit Ridge Drive. Be on the back right corner there. The flow of money concerns me on this. Who would build such an immense center as this? Through research that is attainable through the ACLJ, it seems that the flow of monies for Islamic centers is 80% from Saudi Arabia. And then that leaves other monies from other countries into the U.S. I would certainly be interested in knowing the flow of funds, where all of this comes from for this purpose, for one. For another, this is a community center, it's been shown on my paper, an assembly, a school. I would like to know, in paying my taxes, we have a nice community center in our very neighborhood there at Summit Ridge. We offer things such as a playground, pool, community meeting place, other places or community centers available. For one, I would invite people who would ask, as I've been asked and notified of this development, the developers, I would invite friends to come over, get to know them, come over to the community center, use the playground, be a neighbor. I'm a bit concerned about property value. Probably would be justified years down the road as this project grows. My property borders my fence is there, borders the east side of this development. And so I would be concerned about the removal of all those trees, wonderful green space that it is right now, and then the development of something so, shall I say, commercialized. And my last concerns probably go to following the money trail is also the ideals taught in an Islamic center. You know, the ACLJ, others, and
Sir,
educate me. Yes, sir. Who's this?
we want people to come to the podium and speak their opinions, but what you're talking about here gets totally outside of the purview of what the Planning Commission can consider, and you're getting into philosophical and other political things. It's way outside the scope. So I just caution you, please. Keep it to what you were talking about, the trees, the space, those types of things.
Well, I was speaking to having a good neighbor.
Okay.
I would welcome a good neighbor.
Okay.
I would hope the neighbor would have a good attitude toward myself, and that's what I'm speaking to. Is that, if I'm being clear there, I understand. I want them to, if they want to be there, I want them there. If I'm accepted as a good person, I will reach out, I will be a good neighbor. But if the attitudes are not wholesome toward me as a citizen of the U.S., then I would want to know before such a center is approved and built. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Welchman. Okay, applicants. Please come up, state your name and any comments you wish to make.
Okay, my name is Shaukat Ali. I'm the engineer with ETC Engineers and Architect. Represent the owner, Islamic Center of Little Rock. So I can respond to the technical questions of related to this project, and I think one question, I forgot his name, but the neighbor raised about the trees and the landscape. And this project comply with all the landscape ordinance for the city of Little Rock. And also there is the condition that we will get, I mean, the project will get credit if we can save a certain caliber trees. And our intention to keep a good buffer space with the good grown trees. You know, trees are big deal. I mean, it goes in years. You can chop it in a second, but our objective is to save as many trees as possible around the buffer. So at the end of this project, it's I can assure you that you probably cannot see through my engineering eyes, but our landscape eyes is going to be a beautiful facility in your backyard.
Thank you. Thanks. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Latour?
Well, maybe it's more for staff. Explain this left turn lane. Canis may do it in the future, may not.
Our engineers are conferring. Our traffic engineer will be here in a sec.
Which building is the school?
School is the
Okay.
green on the left-hand side, yeah.
And they'll enter from Canis?
Exactly.
Okay.
Public Works staff want to say something to that issue?
Mr. Chairman and
Yes.
members of the commission, my name is Nat Banihadi. I'm with traffic engineering. What was the question?
Are they required to add a lane
Yes,
all the way?
for their frontage, yes.
And now? I mean, when they build,
Yes,
what's the discussion about it? What's the discussion if it's?
That's the stacking. If there becomes an issue with cars wanting to turn into the site that are eastbound,
Basically, the issue is the eastbound traffic. We have the left turn lane to go into the facility. Sometimes the traffic may be so high that they exceed the left turn lane and start blocking the through lane. At that time, the through traffic can't go anywhere until the left turns are cleared. So our condition is if that occurs at any point, then they need to reroute the traffic to come westbound and make the right turns. So that eastbound traffic is
So
never.
where are they making U-turn?
They will have to probably reroute, coming from somewhere else so that they are not blocking the eastbound traffic at all. So they have to, refigure basically how they're gonna come. Yeah. They can probably use the next, north-south street,
They could use Kirby.
Kirby.
They could use Kirby. They could come down Chenal Parkway to Kirby and then go west on Canis.
The reason is we don't want the capacity of Canis to be affected by people waiting to make a left turn lane. That routinely occurs on arterials, and we don't like to, block the through traffic anywhere on arterials. And there is a possibility that it may last for just, few minutes, but we don't know until, it opens, and they may have special activities when there is suddenly a big influx of vehicles. And if it starts blocking the through traffic, that's when they need to.
I didn't think they were. I thought they were just bringing it from their current.
We don't have another traffic question.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I have another question. What is the projected date for construction? That's for the applicant. Start to finish.
The owners like to start groundbreaking as soon as we get the board approval and the final approval of the design and get the grading permit, basically. So that's our first step. So yeah, it's pretty quick. And the first phase of the construction, they want to finish, as quickly as possible, meaning probably I would see the construction of this side would take about a year or 18 months. And they also like to start it depending on the finance. It's a big project, and you see a lot of investment is required here. So they want to start the school also as soon as possible.
Okay, one last question. Are you going to have a construction entrance?
Absolutely.
Where will it be?
Well, it will be construction entrance. Normally, construction entrance will do more. It's more of a design issue. So we'll work with the city public works. It's going to be somewhere in the first phase of the construction. You see the red area.
Coming off.
Yeah. Right. So it's somewhere over there. But we'll work with the city public works to locate the construction. This it shows the two driveway, but the final plan is a little bit.
The drives have been relocated from this drawing based on what they worked with Public Works on, but they only worked this out in the last couple of days. So before it goes to the board, we will have an updated site plan, but just be assured that Public Works is good with what they've worked out.
Yeah, and it is almost same. So normally we locate, because for a new construction, we locate the construction entrance where we build the main entrance, because that's where you can build the base of the road, so you can use it for your main drive.
Other commissioners, questions, comments? Commissioner Leahy?
Nate?
Yes.
Did I understand you to say that the requirement for the turn lane will be triggered by stacking the traffic in the through lane?
No, the turn lane is required no matter what.
Okay.
But if the traffic in the turn lane exceeds the capacity, if it exceeds the turn bay length and then starts spilling into the through lane, then they're required to reroute their the school traffic is kind of similar to, if you remember, Lisa Academy in West Little Rock, near the West Haven Drive. We required them to actually, majority of their traffic should make right turns, not left turns into the school off of Chenal Parkway. So it will be similar to that. We are gonna, basically we have a condition that if it's at any point, blocks the eastbound through traffic, they need to come up with a new traffic circulation plan for the school to probably use Kirby or some other street and make a right turn rather than wait in the left turn lane.
How are you going to enforce this?
We're gonna have, signage, no stopping, standing. We have that sign, we have those signs on Corporate Hill, and at that point, police can probably issue tickets.
We will have a way to enforce it because it's a condition of approval of their zoning. So if they do not do what we're asking, then they're going to be in violation of their zoning and they'll be back before you.
Can I answer this?
Oh, we'll know.
Can I answer this question? So, one way to do it is basically, because this is the peak hour traffic we're talking about. So the way to do it is, because there's gonna be a one entrance and one exit during the peak hours. So if we have that situation, we can put a sign for, let's say, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. right turn only. So nobody can turn left. So they'll have to come back and right turn.
When are the school hours? What's the start and ending for the school? That'll be your biggest.
It follows pretty much Little Rock School District.
Okay.
Our Little Rock School District hours.
All right, other commissioners? Commissioner Latour.
I'm still bumfuzzled by this. A driver coming from Chenal Valley, north, from the north, won't know till he gets there whether he can turn left and go into your place or not. Is that right?
Right.
So that driver, instead of just saying to heck with it and doing it anyway, which never happens in Little Rock.
Yeah.
He's gonna go a mile or so down to Kirby and wind through the residential area to go back to Chenal Parkway so that he can go, I don't know how he's gonna do it.
There's several cut-through streets.
I guess my question is, if your school hour and your rush hour is the same time as their rush hour, isn't this gonna be a problem? I'm for the project.
I would suggest you put notices out to all your school children and their parents. That's
Yeah.
who's gonna have to be notified.
Yeah, that is.
But if they're a member, they should
I think
know.
we're asking for traffic trouble right there.
Oh, we already have it.
Staff, any thoughts? Vince?
Let's remember this is a school. Their big traffic generator is going to be the school. They can control those students going to that school. They can institute a new traffic plan if that is going to be required. Their traffic engineer provided to us a traffic study that contained a traffic control plan. And that traffic study shows to work. It shows that the left turn lane, there's going to be sufficient stack for the left turn movements. We made special conditions because schools change, schools evolve. The Lisa school caused a lot of complaints. In fact, it made the papers and all of that type of stuff. By these conditions, we are trying to prevent that same occurrence.
I'm not trying to pick a fight. But if you got the
Commissioner
Baker School
Latour, could you speak into the microphone? Your audience wants it.
You got the Baker School traffic, which is pretty horrible now at school pickup, and this is right across the street.
Correct. Baker School, they go to the school from their south, from Baker Lane.
We're still making a left turn.
Correct, except the site plan's been changed where the new driveway, and I'm sorry that the site plan wasn't provided to be shown. Their new drive is going to be on the north side of Baker Lane. So there will not be left turn conflicts with the parents driving their kids to Baker School.
Assuming they're coming northbound.
If they're going southbound, there is no left turn conflicts because then the parents will
What
make
happens
the
in the
right
afternoon
turn.
when they're going home?
Sir?
When they're going home, they're gonna
They-
pull out of school and turn left.
They leave the site from the north driveway at the school. The Baker School has put into place a circulation plan where all the students come into the school from Baker Lane on the south. They leave the school from the driveway that's on the north.
And if they then turn left and go north, it conflicts with all these kids.
No, sir.
Well, that's fine.
Does the traffic engineer for the applicant here, do you wish to speak to this a little?
Can you put up the map with, I'm sorry, can you put up the map that shows the drives? The entrances? I'm confused too, and that'll help me. Okay.
Maybe I can add a little bit of clarity and answer Commissioner Latour's question as well. The site plan is somewhat different than what you're seeing here. It's been improved. As a result of a response and back and forth with the Public Works Department, the main access drive has been relocated to the north to align with Baker's Lane. The benefit of that is that the widening that this developer will do as a part of this project will provide a center left turn lane that will serve two purposes. It'll serve for eastbound left turn into the site, and it will serve the westbound left turns into Baker's Lane. The access, as Mr. Hood has said, Mr. Foriani has said, serves as the entry point for Baker Elementary School. So there's benefit to the school over and above the existing operations that exist now. There's no left turn lane there now for the school, the existing school. And our analysis is based on full development of the entire site, not just the first phase or just the school. And although the city is acting out of abundance of caution because of what has occurred at some other schools, our analysis shows that this left turn lane and the access to this site, which is only for 200 students, will be more than adequate, and the queuing that Mr. Benahani has said could occur, actually could, but it's not predicted to. It's very unlikely that it will. The queuing is much less, the projected queuing for that left turn is much less than the actual length of the left turn lane. And we think that the benefit to the existing Baker School will reduce the congestion over and above what exists out there now. So I think things are going to be fine, but the Islamic Center is prepared to respond to any complaints that the city has relative to school operations and make adjustments in their school ingress and egress plan in response to that. As Lisa had to do right after they opened, they had some problems. They communicated to the parents a new access plan, some changes, and it all ended up working very well. We believe this will work fine. It's a small school, and there's significant adjacent street improvements associated with this development. Is there further question, Commissioner Latour? Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Bowes?
I have a few. Okay, so phase one, which is the orange portion on this map that I'm looking at here, that drive, they're actually going to be, you said the drive is lined up with Baker's Lane. So I'm assuming you're talking about the green one just to the north of Baker's Lane. Is that what you're saying by lined?
The drive that is shown to the north of Baker's Lane will not be there. What is the main access drive will align with Baker's Lane. The secondary drive will be located to the south of Baker's Lane and south of the new access drive.
So
a little bit further south than what that main drive in the kind of pinkish color shows now.
Is there any way we can get this? Do we still have that where we can get this up there?
Same thing.
No,
No,
no, that's the
it's-
old one.
That's the plan prior to the changes that were worked out.
No,
with the
phase
city
one is
staff.
the pink. Phase two is green, and you can put that up there? That way everybody can be on the same page here, literally.
Literally.
Everybody's looking at this, and it's, but phase two is not going to be built immediately.
That's correct.
I can't speak to
That's
their-
correct. So that drive that you're talking about is not going to be built immediately. The drive that's going to be built is the one he's about to show you here, that's in the pink, that is the furthest
But that-
southernmost drive.
That is only for the first phase is only the sports fields and the small gathering facility.
Okay, so it's not the school in
Not
phase
the school.
The
The s-
school is in the green in phase two.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
I guess I can ask another question while I want to ask questions about that map as well, but, so he's going to do an advanced grading of the entire site, which is, remind me how many acres?
About 6 acres.
A little over 6 acres. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we, not long ago, have a huge flooding problem in this area? Are we concerned at all with doing advanced grading on a 6-acre site where there's potential flooding?
To be honest, I've been trying to think, and I do not recall a flooding issue in this, along Canis in this area.
Okay.
Um,
And
This,
part of the first phase, we are also building the detention pond.
Commissioners, I believe that flooding that you're talking about is, in some of the storms that was passed, there's a culvert crossing there at the Cooper Orbit split off of Canis, back behind those apartments. And that area does get some water up on the roadway. But that's a low spot down through there. The property that in question that you're looking at is uphill a little bit along Canis.
Okay, so y'all have already considered that flooding issue, and it's not a concern at that location? So we don't have any erosion control issues that we need to be considering with this, or you've already got it covered?
They will be required to provide us a control plan before they turn the first dirt clod.
Okay, Mr. Malone has thrown up the recently revised site plan. Commissioner Bubbas, other questions?
Okay.
Lined up with Baker's Lane.
Let me explain a little bit. It doesn't appear to be lined up with Baker's Lane, and in fact, where Baker's Lane comes in at a skew, presently it does not. The city anticipates that Baker's Lane would be realigned to tee up at a right angle with Canis Road when Canis Road is widened on that south side. In the interim time period, the offset that exists between Baker's Lane and the new access to the site is offset in a good direction, if you will, where there's not the conflict of left turn movements. So it'll serve the same way. It's just that they won't line up until the widening occurs and the realignment of Baker's Lane on the other side. But functionally, the left turn lane will still be there and serve both driveways.
Okay. Commissioner Bubbas.
So the big if here is the left turn stacking into the school, if it stacks all the way back to where the road widens.
Yes, that's the.
Or narrows, excuse me.
Back to the north end of the site where.
Right, so if it stacks all the way back there, that's the concern. How many cars is that going to be?
We have projected a total of 77 left-turn vehicles during the AM peak hour.
What I'm saying is how many cars can you get in that lane?
You can probably get 20 cars in that lane. We don't expect it to be a problem, but if it is, there's the backup plan of altering the ingress and egress.
And they're doing the widening of the entire for all three phases, sidewalk improvements, turning lane through all three phases now.
Perhaps Mr. Ali would address
No,
this
we
schedule.
we propose that road improvement for the first phase. And the second phase, we'll do the entire rest of this street.
Okay, so phase one will be done, phase one, and then phase two, you'll do all of it.
All of it, because that's
Okay.
the main traffic and.
Okay. Well, really, I guess for the main point is we can cover these phase two, or will they won't have to come back for phase two, will they? Unless-
This is all for
Okay.
the whole thing. Unless they change something.
I'm trying to see how that, this Canis problem is huge, and I've just now seen this map, and I really wish I could think about it a little bit longer to see if there's any other nightmares that could occur on Canis, because it's already a huge problem, so, and it just concerns me just that I'm missing something, but I guess we have to trust staff with those issues, so I won't hold it up.
Okay. Very thorough, Commissioner Bubbas. Commissioner Leahy.
I had a lot of concerns about this. Fact of is, I came in and going to vote against it, but Mr. Ernie Peters has kind of resolved it and relieved some of my pain. I have a lot of confidence in what he's talking about, so I'm going to be in support of it.
Also, isn't this leg of Canis part of the improvement plan that's going to be happening soon or not? I forget which phase that one is on.
It is not part of the improvement plan that's about to happen. The design is from Shackelford to Gamble.
Gotcha.
And depends on the bids and the funding, how far that will go. There is a conceptual design that takes it all the way back up to Chenal that they're looking at. But that has not yet been funded for any type of design or whatever. And so that is yet to be determined.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, on Baker's Lane, that is an entrance-only lane, correct, during peak hours? So there's never going to be a left turn out of Baker's Lane and a left turn out of the school at the same time, where they could collide. That's not going to happen because it's in only right there.
Let me fully disclose, Baker's Lane is a public street. There are a few residents back in there that use it in addition to the school. The school uses it for ingress only, so it operates almost like a one-way street back to the south during the AM when the school inbound traffic occurs. But there could be an occasional resident vehicle that would come out to the street and want to turn left or right.
So that's probably the biggest safety concern would be those two left turns hitting each other, right? Since they're offset, the drives are offset.
Well, they're
Is there another one that I
That's
missed?
a potential concern.
Is there one bigger than that?
No.
Kind of showing your cards a little bit.
No, I was wanting to make sure that my mind was right about them being offset where those left turns could conflict, and they could.
Is that not what is the plan for the improvement of Baker's Lane to get it where they line up where that wouldn't be a problem? Because if they do line up, you can have two left turns at the same time and they're not going to run into each other.
But let's talk about the magnitude of what that potential is, if we can, so we can put it in proper perspective. If you'll give me just a moment. We counted during a 1 hour time period 3 vehicles turning left out of Baker's Lane. So it's if the conflict occurs, it's going to be very infrequent.
School's north of there, isn't it?
Excuse me?
The school is north of Baker Lane.
The school is north of there, but the residents that might come out on Baker Lane are those 3 vehicles. None of the school traffic comes out there. It all comes out on the school's drive to the north.
You said the city has plans to go ahead and line that up?
That's what the city recommended. The alignment of the site drive be shifted north instead of lining up exactly where Baker's Lane is now, to shift it to the north so that when Baker's Lane is teed up, that they do align.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Latour.
I've only disagreed with you once. I think you've done a remarkable job and your accuracy on everything. But I can't help but, and I'm going to vote for it, but I can't help but think that 15 or 20 years from now, when Canis still isn't built, that somebody, it's like Markham University, you know, what kind of idiot would have proposed an intersection?
That's why I'm struggling with this. I'm with you, Paul.
And I just think the citizens are going to say, what kind of idiots did that? So I want to be identified.
Well, you know, I think, and that's why I'm holding this up. I know everybody wants to move on and go home, but, you know, if we've got room for 20 cars stacking here to have a left turn lane, I mean, over the course of this development, when it's done, that to me seems completely inadequate for 20 cars. And I don't know what the solution is, because it really needs to.
Maybe a school traffic cop. I'm serious.
I mean, because really to have the kind of stacking you would need it to, Canis to be fully developed and have a turn lane for quite some distance so that you could have adequate stacking. What if we just made it right in, right out there?
I don't think that limitation is necessary. Let me point out that one of the conditions that the city staff has suggested be a part of the approval is that, if necessary, they would employ off-duty police and alter their access plan as necessary.
Well, I mean,
The
we're
city-
talking 70 students, right? So what we said, 77? Did I hear that correctly?
77 is the
200.
projected number, 200 students.
277 cars.
77 cars, 200 students.
Okay. So we're talking about impacting 77 cars with a right in, right out.
Yes.
Is that overly burdensome to have 77 cars with a right in, right out, and then I don't have to have the nightmare scenario that Paul described where people are looking back and say, what idiots on the board approved that, or planning commission?
We don't want to be associated with the idiots by any means, but I think that the precautions that the city staff has suggested be a condition of approval are going to be sufficient and give the city the tools that they need. They've enforced restrictions on other school locations, and I think they can do that here.
Okay, Commissioner Stebbins?
What is the traffic count on Canis during those hours?
We did AM and PM peak hour counts. We didn't do 24-hour volume counts at the location. And let me share with you what those AM and PM existing traffic volumes are. And the AM peak hour is the more critical time. If we talk about through movements on Canis during the AM peak hour, they total a little over 500 eastbound and 383 westbound. So about 900 total during the peak hour. During the PM peak hour, it's a total of about 700 in both directions at this location.
I have the total daily volume on Canis at Kirby is 13,000.
How much was it, 13?
13,000.
Now, again, on that, if you could flip back to the other one, on the other entrance, why wouldn't that entrance, the southernmost entrance, be right in, right out? Because you don't want them turning left there, the one in red. Because if they come down there and they turn left the way they're not supposed to do, then if they stack it all there, then you're blocking the westbound traffic from turning left onto Baker's Lane. At a very minimum, I'm not going to support this without that, because if you don't have right in, right, if they start stacking there to turn in left, you're blocking the entrance to the school. And to me, you want them to turn left in that green shaded area anyway.
Yes.
So if you've already got one left, why do you need two?
They won't be turning left at the South Drive. That'll be an outbound only lane during the school.
Well, then
time
make it
periods.
right in, right out. So I mean, I'm with that. I think you've got enough there with one left in. I'm not going to support it if that's not right in, right out, and I'm not allowed to negotiate. So that's all I can say.
About the Baker School traffic,
If you turn left in the green area, then you don't impact the Baker School traffic. You don't want them turning left there because they will impact it. We're on the same page.
The left turn lane
Well,
will,
we have submitted an addendum report
yes.
with an option, and both of them actually satisfied.
Yes. But let me point out that the widening on Canis would provide for a left turn lane at the South Drive too, even though at full build, their intention is to let that be an egress drive, not an inbound drive.
Okay, we've kind of beaten that horse. Do you hear any other comments, other commissioners that haven't had a chance to weigh in? Okay, I think we're set for.
Back on. I move for approval of item C with all staff recommendations and comments.
Okay, here a second? All right, we have a motion to approve this application with all staff recommendations, which has been seconded. Those approved signify by raising your right hand. And those opposed?
First time I've been alone.
Okay, it's all right. We're among friends.
Commissioner Turley, I'll explain Markham and University 101.
I'm sure you know the history.
Tell us.
Thank you for that extensive discussion. Let's move on to item E.
Sorry, Ernie.
Item E, file number LA-0075, Spring Tree Subdivision Advanced Grading Variance located on South Ponderosa Drive and south of Spring Tree Drive. The applicant, Ben Zurich, is requesting the approval of a variance from the land alteration regulations for the issuance of a grading permit following the unpermitted clearing and grading of approximately 16 acres south of Yarberry Lane at Sandbridge Drive. The applicant received approval to advance grade the preliminary platted Spring Tree Subdivision Phase 4, which consisted of approximately 5 acres. During the clearing of Phase 4, the applicant's contractor, at the direction of the owner, cleared approximately 11 acres of additional property owned by the applicant, not part of Phase 4. In addition, the contractor also cleared adjacent properties not owned by the applicant, totaling 4.91 acres owned by the Hispano Church and an unknown amount of property owned by Windrock Development. The variance would allow staff to issue an after-the-fact grading permit for the advanced grading activities in Phase 5, which occurred without imminent construction. On May 11, 2017, the applicant met with the neighborhood and staff. At the meeting, several different complaints were voiced by the neighborhood. The general consensus among the neighborhood was to vegetate all disturbed areas as soon as possible and plant trees on lots following the completion of home construction to prevent tree damage. Mr. Zurich also met with the church and Windrock for agreement on a restoration plan. From the meetings, a letter has been provided from Windrock requesting that the applicant only plant grass and establish vegetation on their property. The church has and Mr. Zurich have been unable to reach an agreement. The application has been deferred several times since the first filing of April 27, 2017. The applicant states his project can no longer be delayed and has requested the Planning Commission take action on the variance request. The applicant has removed all the stumps and trees and planted grass on all disturbed areas within Phase 4 and 5 of the subdivision. The applicant proposes to plant or require the builders and/or property owners by conditions of the bill of assurance of the subdivision to plant 3 trees 2 inches in caliber or larger on each lot following the home construction. The applicant also proposes to continue to work with the church to develop an agreeable restoration plan. The applicant has also walked the adjacent neighborhood and obtained signatures from residents in support of his proposal. Staff recommends approval of the land alteration variance with the following conditions: maintain all erosion control devices throughout the construction, establish vegetation on all disturbed areas within 60 days approval of the variance, plan or require the builders and/or property owners by conditions in the bill of assurance of the subdivision to plant 3 trees other than pines of 2-inch caliber or larger on each of the lots following the home construction.
Okay, we have the applicant here. We have 3 cards in opposition. Would you like to hear from them first before speaking? Okay, that'd be just fine.
Commissioner Berry, Before we start, to the applicant and to the property owners or adjacent, the planning commission will not be considering anything that happened on someone else's property. We're we're an administrative body. They're only going to talk about what happened on his property. The planning commission cannot make any conditions that this applicant do anything on someone else's property, and y'all can't tell them what they need to do to remedy that. So we just need to limit the discussion to what happened on that applicant's property as far as the grading.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Director Wyrick, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you. I am BJ Wyrick. It's a little bit different being on this side of the desk. Wanted to visit with you all a little bit about this development. We met with the developer early on in the first plans for him to develop this property, and we told him at the time that we were very concerned about the drainage in the area. We have some neighborhoods that testified that they couldn't get in half of their yards during most of the year because of all the water. He assured us that we would not have any issues from his development. The engineer says if he's able to put his plan in, it should work and maybe help the residents. So we had a big discussion about drainage on the front end. So the development was approved, and as we've heard from the staff, he graded 16 acres. Some of that was his and some that wasn't his. And he's left all of this land exposed for water, drainage, complex issues with the people that are already there. He's came back with a remediation plan, which is to plant seed. And it's my understanding that staff is requiring them to plant seed and have some vegetation before the building permit is issued for this phase. The other thing is that there to be trees planted 2-inch caliber or greater, and I'm hoping that we will hold him to something besides Bradford pears or crepe myrtles. I hope there'll be substantial trees that'll be planted, maybe follow what our city ordinance is in regards to good trees to be planted. But he's not doing that. It's going to be the builder or the property owner that's going to do it. So we have some vegetation hopefully coming that will retain the water from creating additional drainage. But the trees are not going to come until there's some development there, which will help stop the water. I don't know what you're supposed to do whenever you screw up so much and you come back and try to fix it. I mean, I really don't know how you restore it to where it's supposed to be. But it seems like to me that seeding the property and hoping for something green to grow to hold down the water flow that will impact existing residents plus the new people that are going to live in the subdivision doesn't seem to be adequate to me. The other part I have is, the city has a lot of drainage issues, and we don't have the money to go in and try to maintain what a developer leaves behind that will impact residences. So I'm concerned about that. The other thing is the neighborhood, I don't know, has been apprised of all of these developments. The neighborhood president is here today. I think maybe she would like to request an additional meeting to talk about these. I know he's been to a lot of the neighbors and they've signed off and said this is good. But honestly, I know they're concerned about it. I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about the part now as well as what's going to happen in the future. So that's my objections to this plan is it just doesn't seem like it's enough to take care of what he's done and to help protect the new residents plus the older residents that are there.
Thank you, Director Wyrick.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Jim Bradshaw.
Mr. Chair and members of the Commission, I'm Jim Bradshaw. I am a member of and also serve as a trustee of congregation that's been known as Centro Cristiano Hispano. We currently congregate in a location on 36th Street that we've already quite outgrown. And looking to the future, several years ago, we acquired a piece of property on Chico Road, which is adjacent to the subject property. We have begun doing a lot of initial review, have created for our own internal use, a draft master plan of the facility we hope to have there at some point in the future. And earlier this year, our pastor, who is here with me also, became impressed that we needed to begin doing some things on that property to really begin to have our presence in that part of the community. And it was at that point he began to notice that the property had been disturbed. Approximately 5 acres. Trees had been cut in an area that was designed to be primarily if you will, a camping and outdoor activity kind of area. Along that significant stretch of the property, well, around the entire property, we built in at least a 50-foot buffer that was to be undisturbed.
Are you speaking to the applicant's property or your property? I'm not following.
Well, I'm kind of addressing both, if you will.
Just try to keep it to what the
Okay.
applicant's property.
I'll make it as short as possible. The property then that was disturbed, now the buffer that we had planned to leave between us and all the other adjacent properties is gone. And even as the applicant would come and plant grass and trees in that area, it will still be a significant time until those trees will reach a point again where they provide that buffer that needs to be there. I won't go into a number of other specifics about the property because I guess it's more on our side than on that one. The concern I would express is that if this variance is granted, the history that we have seen of this property with the applicant disregarding the permits that were given by the commission and the city to grade a specific part of the property were disregarded, and the entire property was graded. Not only that property, but in disregard to the ownership of other properties, there apparently was no attempt to survey or review the actual property line before that activity was undertaken. Our concern is that if this is granted, then there's nothing that you have as a device to stand before this applicant and require that those things that will be conditions be met. And as Director Wyrick has pointed out, there are a number of issues with drainage in that area. I am not privy to the plans that are there that might address some of those issues, but within the area that is to be the 50-foot buffer on our side of the property, it's been pointed out that there is a significant drainage issue, which I would hope would not impact all the residences that are built in this area.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Latour.
Which is the stuff he owns and what's the one he heired? Is it the subject property? What's that red line going through the location?
Yes, sir. That is the property line on the, I guess that's the south side, is the church property that runs from Canis Road, from Chico Road. Yes. The area just south of that runs from Chico Road to this corner just that area. And the property, yeah, I can point, but it's not doing much on the screen. But it's the area south of that. You see the pointer moving across, if you can see that. That is the property line. Yes, sir.
Is that the property that he cleared things on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The darker line surrounds the subject property, and it was in that area adjacent to that darker line where the
You got it. Your fan club, why don't you speak in the mic, Commissioner?
Okay. Well, who owns the subject property?
The subject property, yes, sir.
Yeah.
The developer, the applicant.
And so he cleared down onto your property?
Yes, sir.
The whole kit and caboodle, or just this little part?
Approximately 5 acres. The church owns just over 57 total acres in that parcel, and he
Did he
cleared
clear the
approximately 5.
Just straight south?
Yes, sir. In the, I'm not sure
Little
what, if
triangle
you have
thing?
the map
I'm looking
there,
at what
but
you're looking at.
yes, sir, in the, kind of in the triangle that is adjacent
I
to
just wanted to
the
understand.
subject property.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Melvin Belford? Relford? I'm sorry. Melvia. My glasses were not working.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Melvia Relford, president of the Deer Meadow Association. Mr. Zurich and our neighborhood have had several meetings concerning the building of the new homes. The last meeting we had, we talked about issues of erosion of nearby neighbors, flooding. We also talked about grasses. And so some of the neighbors are complaining about having the type of grass built, reseeded, because they have dug up their yard to put in piping. Those are some of the issues, but on the form he brought around this past weekend for neighbors to sign to go forth with this project, many did not sign because a lot of the issues were not on the paper. The only thing was on the paper was the 3 trees. So we're looking at erosion and flooding. We need to discuss that. So I'm proposing a meeting as soon as possible with him before a decision is made for him to move forward, so we can have everything settled. Thank you.
Thank you, Melvia. Would the applicant like to approach them and state your name and make your comments, please?
My name is Ben Zikri. I'm a developer. I made a big mistake, I agree. I was out of the country while it was happening, but I take all the responsibility about it. I agree with all the concerns of the neighborhood association, all the neighbors, and actually I met with them even before we started developing. I think the first time was maybe 2 years ago. From the beginning, it was important for me to get the support, even before we started. And it shows that until now, it's very important for me to get the support. And I'm here to work with them. And I actually sent an email to Melivia last week to see when is the next meeting, to keep see what we can do as far as make everyone happy. I'm still working with the church and try to get to agreement with that. Also with the city to see what we can do as far as get it done correctly, and that's pretty much.
Okay. Commissioners and staff.
You're not going to be first again.
You don't want to be first?
Well, you can't go back and redo what's been undone, obviously.
Actually,
So you're not going to ever make everybody happy.
yeah.
I think the staff has addressed the issues with drainage and anything that could be in the future. And you're okay with it. Okay, so, I hate that you have upset your neighbors, but, again, you can't do anything about it at this time except apologize and try to be a very good neighbor in the future.
Always have to take it back.
I don't know if there's any kind of buffering you can do that would help them to feel better, or the church to feel better, but, I'm assuming y'all have discussed that.
Yeah, I did. And I'm open to get what do I need to do as far as if there is something to do more than what we think to make it right.
Okay.
Mr. Stebbins?
I know this doesn't lie in our purview, but I mean, do the people who have been aggrieved or whatever, do they have legal recourse for damage to their property that they can seek besides what we're doing today?
I don't want to give anyone any legal advice, and but yes.
Commissioner Leahy, you did have something on your mind?
We've had a number of people in the past do something like this. They clear quite a bit more land than they actually own. And there's a lot of people who probably have a hand in letting this be done. But I'm going to be against this because I think the man needs to belly up and say, hey, we're going to restore these people, even though they're not his site. He's going to restore these people as to what they were beforehand. And once they're satisfied, they can come back and we can discuss the application again, but I'm opposed to it based on what he's done and all the neighbors around him being upset.
Commissioner Latour?
I turned it on for everybody. My question is not of you, but my question is, what happens if we vote no? Does he leave the land the way it is?
That was my question.
I mean, what I gather, if we vote yes, he's being required to do something. Whether that something's enough for everybody, I don't know. But if we vote no, he does nothing. Am I correct?
Staff?
No.
Vince?
The vote note from the Planning Commission means that Mr. Zekri follows the city code pertaining to planting back trees. For the 16 acres, he will plant back about 1,000 trees, and then also plant the grass. When construction starts on phase 5, those construction started on phase 4. When construction starts on phase 5, those trees, they will be bulldozed. And streets and drainage and utilities will be constructed. We did not think that it was a good source of money to be paid to plant those trees if, when phase 5 starts, that the trees, they are then demolished. I'm sorry, they are dug up.
Any other thoughts? Commissioner Bubbas?
Thank you, sir. This has been going on for how long?
A year almost.
I'm sorry?
Almost a year.
Almost a year. And you're a general contractor, right?
I am, but I'm not the one that's doing it actually.
Okay. So in your, what I'm just going to get this real quick, is we've got drainage, erosion, and in my experience, those items are not expensive to fix.
I didn't say that I'm not going to do it. Whatever I need to do, I will do.
My point is it should have already been done.
As far as seeding, I already seed most of the area over there.
Right. So.
And the thing is that why I want to keep moving with that, to get the street in and everything. And as soon as we start building, everything going to look better. It's going to make it.
Right. So as far as what the city's asked you to do today to get this variance, How long is that going to take?
As far as vegetarian?
All of it?
I'm going to start with it as soon as, from next week, I'm going to start.
So how long will it take you to complete it?
The street, they're assuming like in the next 2 weeks. They
No,
should be done.
in the staff's plan, it's the erosion control, it's not a street. Am I wrong in that?
They will start construction of the street, following all of the silt fence and erosion controls and stuff being installed.
Okay, so they will start construction of the street and grass, erosion controls, and all of those things. Which,
Okay.
Immediately, yeah.
They will, they are now constructing Phase 4.
Okay.
Phase 4, that's been permitted. They are not required to plant grass on
it
Phase
is.
4. They are required to plant the grass and install controls on silt fence on Phase 5.
do you have a picture of that? Is that what you're, yeah, help me out here so I can see the phases. What on that last plan for that showed the homes, what was that, Phase 5?
That drawing there is showing both phases, Phase
All right.
4 and Phase 5. The other drawing shows Phase 4, which they are permitted to start the grading and to start construction.
Okay. I'm sorry, you said this one was 4.
Correct.
Okay, and this one's already permitted, and this is sitting on the eastern side of this.
This ties to Sand Bridge.
Okay, so it's the northwest corner
Right.
there, where that is. So the street that you're proposing to be built will, I guess, connect to Sand Bridge
Correct. That ties to
and go
Sand
through
Bridge.
Phase 4.
Mhm.
So how will that extend through the entire property, or do we have any plans do we have a drawing for that?
No, sir. All that there is for Phase 5 is a preliminary plat that
Okay.
is approved.
So it'll be a street through the property, the erosion control. I guess why I'm asking a lot of these, if I would have done, people make mistakes, I get it, but within a month, I would have gone or less, I would have had, some type of retaining area built so that it wouldn't have drained onto other people's property. I think by passing this variance, my concern is we're losing some of our teeth here. Am I wrong with that as far as our enforcement ability? Because he is told, he doesn't know, we don't have a date. How long does he have to complete these in? There we go.
We've placed a condition within 60 days. Grass must be growing on the site. The other thing is that prior to platting the first Phase 4 lot, we're going to require that all of the sites seeded, Phase 4 plus also Phase 5.
So within 60 days, he has to have that done. Okay.
Which I already did a big portion of that, like I think 60% already seeded.
The reason for 60 days is because the months of July and August and September, they're not the best months to grow grass.
Right.
And so we would like for successful, we would like to be successful in planting.
Commissioner Latour?
What does this do to help the church to the south? Is this what you guys want, Director Wyrick? Do you want, I mean, you're not planting any grass. I assume what I hear is that they cleared all of that.
On
He
that,
cleared all of that, and
Are you asking what the advantage of him making improvements on his land will be to the church? Or are you asking?
not sure what,
Are you asking, is he going to remedy that? And if you're asking if he's going to remedy
My
what
question
his
is, why does the
damages.
church get out of it? I mean, they're down here wanting something, and I'm not exactly sure what, because I don't think they're doing anything on their
I
property.
don't think the planning commission would be the proper authority to grant the remedies that the church needs. I mean,
My question though is, if we approve it, have we given up on anything that they might get from it?
no, because you don't have authority to do something on the church's property anyway, nor tell him that he has to do something on someone else's property.
The commissioners,
In all fairness, we do have a meeting scheduled with Mr. Zickery for next Wednesday afternoon where that issue will be discussed. And we're in complete agreement with staff that it does not make sense to require him to plant all of those trees, many of which would be simply dug up later in a fairly short period of time. So there's nothing that we would want and expect from him that would cause that extra expense. We want to work together and be good neighbors as well. So.
thank you. Any other comments or
I got another comment.
Commissioner Leahy, I didn't see your hand. Okay.
Isn't he required to have a full-time superintendent on the job with the authority to make decisions? And that by city ordinance that he's got to have that on there? And I think I'm correct because I was working on that when they wrote that ordinance. And there should be some penalty for not having him on there. And if he did have him and he don't know where his project is, you don't need him.
Staff want to respond to that, and I'll ask Director Wyrick to add some additional comments.
Commissioner Leahy, what you're talking about is during operation, when they're doing the grading operation, there is a superintendent needed. Now, whenever an operation stops, there's a period of time that they can pull off the site and not work and do stuff and for state regulations, and then they have to get back on and do some erosion control, but they do not have to be there, on a site that has been disturbed, 24 hours a day, or a superintendent full time.
Doesn't he have to be there any time there's work in progress?
A superintendent with knowledge of the erosion has to be on site when the work is during process.
Thank you.
Did he have a superintendent on the project?
The contractor was there. The contractor was there. But he didn't do his job. We didn't do it correctly,
So, go ahead. We are coming kind of a close on this question. Director Wyrick, did you want to add anything to what's been said? Just the lectern would be fine.
It's my understanding that the city had at least 2 opportunities to bring this overutilization of grading to a halt. The neighborhood started talking to the Public Works and possibly planning, and they said, well, he has a grading permit, but he was outside of the boundaries. It's my understanding that even the engineer said he was grading outside of the boundaries. We had a phone call from another neighborhood person that was wondering what was going on with the Hispanic property. And we were told that they're building a church. So this went on for a bit. And it's my understanding that Ben was out of the country. And in fact, that's been part of the issue with coming up with the restoration plan for this property, is because he's not available. And it's my understanding he's leaving again, which gives me pause for how do we get, the vegetation back? How do we get this problem resolved as best we can do it? I'm concerned that we don't have someone managing the property and bringing everything together.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Before I refer to you, Commissioner Bob, is that I am coming around to what Commissioner Latour says. If we deny his permit, there is nothing he is required to do at all. Is that correct? So what
That,
are the alternative scenarios if his permit's denied versus it's allowed?
If this permit is denied, this request denied, it is, something still has to be done. It defaults back to the ordinance, and that's what Mr. Floriani explained earlier. He has to restore the land per that ordinance. The variance that they're requesting is, because of the development that's going on the roadways, for the removal of the trees that would be planted. So there is still something that the city will do, if this is denied.
So staff is thinking on balance, if it's permits allowed, you get more on net balance, it'll be better than if it were denied. Is that what staff is saying? The conditions you're imposing now will yield a better result than if not.
The proposal staff supports. We believe that the trees that are planted will be maintained. We are not certain that if the 1,000 trees are planted, we are not certain that those trees will be maintained, because when you pull a building permit, you can clear all the trees on that single lot by code. You are not required a grading permit. You can clear all the trees. So in theory, all the trees planted could be graded or dug up. We believe by this plan that this will establish trees that will be able to grow, being they are planted following construction, and that is construction on the lots. 2 in the backyard, 1 tree in the front yard.
Thank you. Commissioner Bubas.
Okay, and again, I'm going to need a little help here. So if, let's say he doesn't do this, say we pass this and he doesn't do it, he's out of the country or what have you, just doesn't get done. I'm concerned about our enforcement and our remedy. I think at this point, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but if we ask him or require him to go back and plant all of those trees and plant all of that grass, and he says, I can't do it, can we not place a lien on the property for the value of that work? Is there not a bigger force that we could have in enforcement of this rather than allowing him after 1 year, he hasn't helped the neighbors. After 1 year, he's damaged the neighbors. He's still got drainage problems. He hasn't planted grass, which is very cheap. He hasn't built you could easily build a small dirt levee and prevent a lot of these drainage problems, and they haven't happened in a year. So it gives me a lot of heartburn to grant him this variance. If anything, I think he should go do the work and then us grant the variance, because it's not costly. I don't know if I'm allowed to negotiate with staff or not, but I would rather vote for a deferral of the item. The work is not expensive. It's not timely. It doesn't take long to plant grass and again, if I were you, I'd go build a small dirt levee just to retain the water, to stop the drainage problem. And then after he gets the work done, then let's grant the variance. And if he doesn't, then let's hit him with the stick and say you didn't do what you were supposed to do. But I don't like losing the ability to have some enforcement on him I think we're letting him off the hook without doing anything. And I don't think this is the right thing to do. And I appreciate staff saying, the assumption is he's going to do what he's supposed to do, right? That's the assumption. I don't know that that's a good assumption with what his past history is. Let's defer this, make him do the work, then come back, then get your variance, make your neighbors happy. So as it is now, I'm going to vote against this item.
Can I say something?
Yes.
First of all, the clearing is not, we started this project a year ago, like 10 months ago. But the place, the way that it is like that now, it's about 4 months. I was out of the country about 2.5 months, just because when they started with this clearing in this project, I had enough time until all the developing going to take time, so I didn't have nothing to do. And my wife and my son are there in Israel, so I went to be there. Now if I'm going only for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I'm not going to go until this project is done, as far as approval by the city, and satisfied, and I have my engineer that actually gonna be there with me to keep going. Now I did seed all the area that we could. The one that we left, because it's still moving dirt from one side to another side. So there's no point to seed it until they finish grading it and make it clean enough and level enough, so then we can put the seeding. But as far as I think, if I don't have a problem to do it, and I was waiting, and I started already, did it before. The thing is that now, as much as we're pushing it, I'm losing much more than actually to finish with this developing. I don't have any interest not to finish and not to do it in the right way, because even when I won't move along, it's my beginning, it's my first project. I don't want to I already started bad, but I don't want to continue like that, because my future is, I'm not here to do one time, bang and go. I'm here to keep doing it. So I made a big mistake, I'm learning from that, and I'm here to make it right. And I'm here to develop my relationship with the city and with the neighborhood, and keep going with that. I want to grow. I don't want just to stop. I don't want to be here again in 2-3 months and disappointed you. That's not my plan, not at all.
Okay, thank you. Staff, anything else you want to add? Okay.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Does our enforcement mechanism change whether or not we grant this or not? Do we have more enforcement ability if we turn this down versus if we were to give him this? Does that change? Do we have more?
It doesn't.
I'll support staff then.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Job, right? I forgot. I move for the approval of item E with all staff recommendations and comments.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the application with staff recommendations, and it has been seconded. Those approve signify by raising their right hand. And those who do not approve, motion passes 8-1.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There's a lot of anguish out here, I want to say to the applicant, so you understand.
I will
You
promise you
understand
that
the
I
heartburn
will do whatever
we've had.
Whatever
Okay.
I needed to make it right. I promise you that.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to item number 12. Staff?
Item number 12, file number Z-9150-A, East Village Revised Short Form PCD, located at 1200 to 1400 East 6th Street. Ordinance number 21-291, adopted by the Board of Directors on September the 6th, 2016, rezone the property from UU Urban Use District to an I3 Heavy Industrial to PCD Planned Commercial Development to allow the site to redevelop as a mixed-use development and allow a variation from the Presidential Park Design Overlay District. The applicant is now requesting to amend the previously approved PCD for the East Village to allow a revision to the approved signage plan. The site is located within the Presidential Park Design Overlay District, which has specific guidelines for signage. Neon illumination is permitted if channelized. Exposed neon is not permitted. The applicant is proposing the placement of wall signage identifying the paint factory, which does have exposed neon. The plan also includes the placement of a projecting sign. The sign is proposed of painted vinyl with graphics and also has red exposed neon illumination. And the plan includes the placement of a shipping containers to create an identification sign for the East Village. The plan includes the placement of 7 shipping containers stacked. They're 20 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet to a height of 56 feet with lettering on the top container identifying the area as the East Village. The plan also includes the placement of an 8-foot tall by 16-foot wide lighted billboard sign on the top of the west elevation of the easternmost building facing Shell Avenue. The sign is proposed to identify the businesses within the proposed development. The sign is not proposed as an off-premise billboard advertising sign. All other signs will comply with the development criteria of the underlying UU Urban Use Zoning District. Staff is supportive of the allowance of the placement of exposed neon. Staff is not supportive of the applicant's request for the billboard or the stacked container sign. The site is located within the Urban Use Zoning District and the Presidential Park Design Overlay District. Staff does not feel the billboard advertisement is suitable for this area. Also, within the UU zoning district, the maximum height allowed for a sign is 6 feet and the maximum area is 64. The sign is proposed the stack container sign as proposed well exceeds the height typically allowed with sign area and far exceeds the standard height. Staff recommends denial of the request.
Okay. We have the applicant here. I think we have one card in opposition to this. Would you like to hear Ms. Ruth speak before you address the commission? Ruth?
I'm the opposition?
Yes. Well, and staff denial too.
Okay. All right, I'm Ruth Bell with the League of Women Voters, and we have a long history in the League of supporting sign regulation. I won't bother you with the long history of how we've fought the good fight to keep signs within bounds. This particular proposed sign, to us, signs are meant to communicate and to tell people important things they need to know. This particular sign doesn't seem to be telling them anything they need to know that couldn't be told them under the existing rules of the sign ordinance. So for that reason, and because it sounds pretty darn ugly, we would ask you to reject this proposed sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Applicant, state your name and make your presentation, please.
Dan Fowler with the Cromwell firm. We're the lead architect, I guess, and part of the development team for the paint factory in East Village. I did want to say thank you for your comments. I did want to ask a question. I'm assuming you're referring to the container stack sign as the primary one you're objecting to. Is that correct? The tall one, the big one there? It's okay. It's all right. It's okay.
Container sign you don't like, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Perfect.
Sign I don't want.
Okay. All right. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak, tell you about our strategy for the sign, the ones that are in variance in particular, and also the ones that staff objects to in particular. Our goal really is to activate this area and this part of the city, and we're trying with our investment and putting people there and putting residents there and new retail operations, things like that, trying to really make a big difference in that part of the city. And we really hope that that will spread to the areas south of us in Hanger Hill and the areas east of us in the East Little Rock neighborhood. Part of that vision is to activate the street and create a district, not just a building. We do have several buildings in the stretch of 6th Street, but we really want to create a place and a sense of place. And part of that has to do with a visual reflection of what happens there and an excitement and an appealing interest to a broader market than just the people that work there on a daily basis. So the primary focus of that signage package is that, and if you were to look at the details, it has a lot of different types of signs. There's not really one that, more than one that looks alike. It's intended to look as if there are several different things going on there. The billboard sign itself is part of that visual sort of fabric. It's facing Shao Street, which is helping to turn the corner from 6th, where the primary frontage of our development is, up Shao Street towards Heifer. As Donna said, it is not intended to be an advertising type sign. It is intended to mark the location and what it is, and to be visible, frankly, from a little ways away so that people can see the activity. The container sign is, I guess, an extension of that, where we are really trying to mark the place as a district and make it a place. And if you think about a lot of the really great places in our communities, really around the country and even around the world, they all have something that marks it, a monument that says this is that place and makes it an icon of sorts. And that's what we're trying to do with the container sign.
Thank you. Commissioners, comments, questions?
I'll lead off with the questions. You mentioned Shall Street in your conversation. Who owns Shall Street?
Shall is a city street.
You wouldn't want to bet your life on that, would you?
No, sir, I would.
I just got back from Nashville, Tennessee. I like this stuff. They have these kind of, it just gives a cool factor. And I'm going to support you. I think it's kind of zippy to have something a little different than a billboard, whatnot. So
Where is the billboard? Could someone point out, is the billboard on the stack or a billboard located somewhere else?
No,
proposed?
there's actually two different signs.
Okay.
The billboard is on, above the parapet on the northwest corner of the two-story building.
Okay.
So it's catty corner to the new East End project.
Other commissioners?
What exactly is a billboard sign?
So it's really a fixed graphic, and the best example we have in the city that you might know would be the back of the Butler Center. So if you're getting on the interstate on ramp at I-30, you look up, I think it says Cabbage Rose, and it's a fake sign, and it doesn't mean anything. It's just a throwback to a hand painted sign that would have been part of that period. It goes alongside the fake water tower that's
Right.
there. So it's a similar idea, and it's not internally lit. It's not a cabinet sign. It is just a fixed printed graphic, and we would probably have lighting on it, just some concealed bulb lighting, but it would be more in the era of probably 50s or 60s, and not a real lit flashing billboard sign.
Any other commissioners?
I'm going to follow Mr. Latour's lead. I think, just as with the last applicant where there was some issues of distrust there, I think Cromwell has every reason in the world to make this development first class, spend $1 jillion, make it awesome. And, if they're wanting to lead in redevelopment in this area, I'm willing to, vote in favor of them. I think they could probably should grant them a little leeway here. So I'll vote for you.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Scott, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that same vein. I like the concept of trying to do something a little bit different. It'd been nice if you brought more of an artistic rendering would help us out, but I kind of get the idea. The little person there says a lot about the height, but I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Great, thank you.
Well, before we cast a vote on this, I'll indulge the chair prerogative. It is jazzy. You guys do good work. I have to admit it's a little bit clever by half too much. I know you want to stand out and be differentiated where you're located. I mean, it's going to scream out across the interstate and to my office building downtown. And but businesses that are going to be locating out there, you have to decide this is a precedent you want to create. Blue Canoe's going to have a tap room out there. They could stack all kinds of blue canoes, and that'd be clever. I'm not sure a billboard's appropriate for this area. I think we're trying to get away from billboards, and I think staff has said that adequately. Staff is supportive of the exposed neon signs. I learned more about neon and channelized. I am concerned about the stacked. I think that's a clever idea. It's just the wrong place for it, and it's going to open up to things in the district maybe that don't need to happen for them to advertise themselves. But anyhow, I might be a minority person on that, but I agree with the staff with the concern about the stack.
Commissioners, if I may add a point to that.
Yeah.
I want to make it clear that the staff, as far as the looks and the concept that was presented to us, and then they did sit down with us, do support that. And we do support redevelopment of the area, for it. And we think it's a, good idea. that is not what we are in opposition to. We are in opposition to the height of the sign, you know, and the billboard, that look of the billboard. But everything else that they're talking about, we agree with redevelopment. We want redevelopment in the area.
That's correct.
We just think that it's, for that area and for what's coming in, a smaller, maybe not quite the height of a monument sign, but, you know, something a little bit less than a 56-foot sign. You know, a little bit less obtrusive out there that's sticking way up, and you could get the same effect that they're trying to get with a lesser in height sign, as far as the stack containers go. And I do agree. I do like if they're going to go with that industrial look, that's a good look to have. Now, as far as the billboard, you know, just where it's located, you know, on the building, that was, the signage wasn't necessarily the issue. I understand they're trying to go for this look, but possibly a smaller signage, you know, located a little bit more on the facades of the building could get you that same look, you know, other than the billboard. So I just wanted to, you know, address the commission on that.
Can I respond to some of that before we have any more questions and comments? I will say this for consideration for the commission. The billboard sign is not a timely sign. It does not have to be done at this very moment. The remainder of our sign package, excluding the tower sign or the stack sign, is timely. And so we would be willing to withdraw that sign from the application and give us the opportunity to work with staff, maybe to work on a more appropriate size or location even. You know, like I said before, it is a character sign, so it is more just about adding that visual kind of activity. So we'd be fine with removing that from our application, amending what we've submitted.
So you're amending your application to remove the billboard sign?
Yes, that's
But
correct.
not change the height on the container sign?
I can speak to the container sign as well. I don't want to make this a difficult vote, frankly. This is not intended to be contentious. We're trying to do something positive and something good for this part of our city and for the city at large. The container sign itself will not be built at the same time and completed at exactly the same time as the main building. So it's a few months out. And again, it is not timely either. And, you know, we want it. We want to mark the place. It's very important to us to be able to do that. But, you know, again, if that is of concern and is going to split this group, I would rather take it off the table as well and do the exact same exercise with it that we've done the billboard. You know, again, we're not here to try to, you know, force any sort of issues. We're like I said, we're trying to do something good and positive, and if we need to review this further, we're happy to do that.
I personally feel like you do need to, and that we need a rendering. I just think that would help tremendously if we had what you're visualizing. I'm not visualizing what you're visualizing.
We do have a rendering, but we've not made it available.
And I would like to have a rendering of what it would look like from a distance, from the interstate.
Yeah.
I for those that are my age and older, remember when you went by Broadway in North Little Rock, and you see the East Broadway, you'd see cars on billboards, and that was great back then. But so I don't know if I see it now, but I think Commissioner Dillon's comments are very pertinent about if you could, we could, if you want to amend the application now and come back with that, or you want to defer the application and.
No, I think I'd rather amend the application further to remove the sign from consideration, the container stack from consideration.
Container stack and the billboard.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Commissioner Bubba's?
Motion.
Yes.
Okay.
What do you want?
Is the staff in agreement with this approval now? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so the staff's changed their recommendation to in favor of it.
We supported the neon, and that's the only thing that's on the table right now.
Okay.
They support it with the amendments that he's making.
Okay, all right. I move for approval of item 12 as amended
By the applicant.
by the applicant
Removed
to remove the billboard.
and the stack.
And the stack.
Okay.
All right.
I second.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion that's been seconded to approve the application as amended by the applicant that removes for time being the billboard and the stacked keeps the neon signage then. So it's been seconded. Those who approve the motion signify by raising their right hand. And those opposed? Okay, thank you very much for your agreeability, and we look forward to seeing some more.
Great. Thank you all
Okay,
very much.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Item 21.
Last but not least, file number Z-8262-C, Rowan Village Long Form PCD revocation located on the east side of South Shackleford Road in the 2700 block. On November 8, 2007, the commission reviewed a request for rezoning of this site from MF12 to PCD. The board of directors approved the rezoning request on December 4, 2007. The approval rezoned a 22-acre tract of land for a mixed-use development in 3 phases. The applicant proposed the development of commercial along Shackleford Road. Second phase consisted of residential townhouses, and the third phase, 30 lots of detached single-family homes. The uses approved were C3 uses within the commercial area. The applicant is now seeking approval of revocation of the PCD zoning classification and the restoration of the underlying MF12 zoning. The applicant indicated the development as previously proposed is not a viable project. The development has not occurred in the time frame required for submission of the final development plan, and the PCD zoning has expired. The request would revoke the PCD zoning and restore the underlying MF12. As per Section 36-454, the owner may request the commission to revoke it after 3 years if the development has not occurred. The commission is a recommending body, and the commission will provide a recommendation to the board of directors for their consideration. The owner is requesting the PCD zoning be revoked, the underlying MF12 zoning district be restored, and staff does recommend approval of the current PCD zoning classification be revoked and the previously held MF12 zoning district be restored to the property.
Thank you, staff. Applicant, we have one card here. If you'd like to yield to Sonia Murphy and hear her comments.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. Sonia, would you like to get up and say something, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners. I'm Sonia Murphy, and I serve as CEO of Camp Aldersgate. And I want to first say that we greatly appreciate your past support of this body, of the Commission, and of the city staff. Very, very appreciative. We are a camp that we serve children with special needs, and we have year-round programming. We're a nonprofit. We were established in 1947 and have more than 100 acres at 2000 Aldersgate Road. We are not in opposition to Mr. Chee's proposal for revocation, but we do want to go on record to state our concern. We do also appreciate Mr. Chee with past leadership. He has been communicative, and he also reached out to me personally recently to talk about this particular proposal, and we appreciate that collaboration. Our concern is that any scope of the future project not have an adverse impact on the experience that our children with special needs have. Many times that's their only time away from home, and we want any element such as noise, lights, traffic, not to impede the solace of the woods. We are home to many species of animals, and we want the children to truly feel like they're in the woods and camping like every child wants the opportunity to do. So we would just want you all to know that we would be concerned about the scope, but hope to be collaborative with Mr. Chee and with you all when the project moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. G, would you like to get up and speak, please?
Last guy to bat. I would just like to say that our organization and our family, we've owned this property for probably close to 10 years, if not in excess of 10 years. We originally purchased the property and had it rezoned with PCD approval, looking at a very large scope for the property. And, you know, real estate in 2007, 2008, 2009 really kind of impeded our vision, our overall vision for the property. Since that time, obviously, many of the economic drivers for that particular part of town have changed and altered. To be quite honest with you, we don't have a development plan in place. We just know that the previously approved PCD is not a viable project, would not make monetary sense in order to pursue the reinstatement of the PCD. So, and again, I'll further clarify that our family's support for Camp Aldersgate and ERC, which are two primary neighbors in this in proximity to this property, the missions of those two organizations are very, very dear to our family, and specifically towards Camp Aldersgate. So we will be very communicative as we have been in the past. You know, we've developed several plans for this property, and we've included both ERC and Camp Aldersgate in all of those different developments, and we will continue to do so. Having the camp experience for Camp Aldersgate for the children that participate in that camp is our utmost concern. Those children should be able to participate in the mission that Camp Aldersgate pursues, and every design element of this property from this point forward will keep that mission and keep that ideal of Camp Aldersgate in consideration with every single step. So everything from the heights of the buildings to lighting to sound, diffusement from property line to property line, all that's going to be taken into consideration. So I appreciate the time to speak in front of the commission today.
Mr. Stebbins.
I appreciate what you said about your family's dedication to the missions of your neighbors and everything, but, you know, just as this will allow you a more economically feasible project in the future, it's also feasible that you could, once the zoning is placed back, you could sell the property. It would be easier to sell that property to someone else who could develop it, who might not have the same values toward Camp Aldersgate as someone else. So I'm sure you understand the concern.
So our intent, I don't know how many of the commissioners are aware of the development history or the type of developments that our family executes and permits. One of the things that my father kind of instilled into myself and my older brother is not to build crap. And I don't think that we've ever acquired a piece of property, developed it, and then tried to quote unquote flip it. We don't build our buildings with materials that are going to deteriorate over a 5-10 year period. We build those buildings to be there 50 years to 100 years from now. We quite frankly have no interest in dissolving our ownership of this property. We're going to see this piece of property through. Not that very many of us will be here. Hopefully I won't either. Hopefully I'll be long and past retired, but I'm sure that somebody will have the same conversation with my daughter about how are we going to, you know, handle this property, and if I have anything, and if I've raised her any better than my father has raised me, then she'll probably hold on to the property through her generation as well. So the family is absolutely dedicated to this piece of property. We always kind of sponsor our own motto by saying that if you develop, you should develop responsibly. There's a lot of things that developers can and can't do in order to kind of pursue the almighty buck. this property is very, very close to every single member of our family, and I don't think that you're ever going to see or come across a situation in any of the developments that we do in town, but especially this one where they said, well, they could have made more money doing this, and that's probably what they did. You know, we're probably going to take the more responsible approach to this property. So, thank you.
Any other commissioners, comments, questions? I have a question for staff. That this is only a footnote for the future. Did the previous PCD have access? Did the site have access to Aldersgate for traffic circulation?
Nope.
Okay.
That all access was off of Shackelford. There was an emergency access coming in.
Is that a conditional move forward, or staff position to move forward if that is to be developed or to be determined?
I think that we can address that when the project comes back through.
Okay. So I'm assuming access to Aldersgate is an issue for Camp Aldersgate, I would think. Don't know. Okay. I hear a motion.
I move for approval of item 21 with all staff recommendations and comments.
Second.
I hear a motion, a second, for approval of the application with all staff recommendations. It's for the revocation. Those approved signify by saying aye. Aye. Raise your right hand. Yeah, long night. Raise your right hand if you approve. I'm sorry. Those signify with a like sign if they disapprove. Okay, thank you. Motion passed unanimously.
I appreciate it. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
no problem. Citizen communication, do we have any? There being none, we are adjourned.